Hey everyone, this is Rocky from WeLearnChess.com, and in this game that I'm about to show you, I came across two really rare mates in the same game. One obviously I didn't get to play, just can't mate twice in the same game. But okay, so I had the white pieces. This was a 15-10 game on Chess.com. I think my opponent was like 150 points higher than me. I played the Smith-Morra. I still haven't quite figured out what the best response is to this. I think it's called a pin defense. I have to look in my Mayhem in the Morra book and see what he recommends against this. It's kind of annoying. It's totally valid defense. I've seen black take at different times, like even just right here. But I was trying to develop as much as possible and just try to present some problems and see how long I could see if I could do this without playing a3, just to kind of let him waste tempo. But I actually wonder if maybe here, like instead of playing just the standard rook move, maybe I should have put the rook on c8 right away so that I could take back with the rook. But okay, so he played queen c7, and I was playing too fast as usual, and I just dropped the bishop back. The idea with this is that you open up the c file, so you want to put this rook on c1 and make things uncomfortable for the queen. So like if he didn't do anything here about this, because this knight isn't pinned anymore anyway. So let's say we had something like where he just doesn't want to take the knight because he doesn't want to give up the bishop pair. And say he plays some kind of normal moves. Even here, maybe I could probably do something like this where like if he takes, then you're going to get the piece back. I mean, he could do it this way, I guess. And I might be able to build up some pressure here and get another pawn back. And also my pieces are a little more active, and he's also got this weakness here, so there's definitely something to be said for trying to get that move in. But he, as soon as I moved my bishop back, I guess he saw what my next move was going to be. So let's say he played queen c7, and because remember, this bishop is also protected by the queen, so it's not like you necessarily have to do something about it right away, but it is nice to drop it back just so that like when a knight maybe comes to like e5, it doesn't come with tempo on the bishop. But okay, so he took right here, and that didn't allow me to take back the rook because I needed one more move to get it over, and now I've got this sort of fragmented structure. I don't think this would have been so bad, but he gets the bishop pair back right away. It's kind of annoying, and I was thinking about even sacking this pawn and just dropping the bishop back, but I'm already down a pawn, so if I do that, then it might get a little tricky. But then again, maybe this pawn is going to be lost at some point in the game anyway, so if I can save the bishop pair and try to present him more problems, maybe I can do something with that. Okay, but anyway, as it went, he grabbed this and I took the rook, so I was just trying to keep active here. And yeah, he got d5 in, which is it's useful, right? So I wanted to try to keep playing with my activity. I didn't want to just take this and let his knight come into a great square. So yeah, I don't know if that's, I guess, yeah, probably, I don't know. It's usually a safe square for the queen in the Smith-Morra, but it's kind of funny looking where it's all the way back in the corner. Plus, even though maybe my bishop isn't on the greatest square, I like that it's looking at the d8 square, so maybe I can get some pressure down this file at some point, and it's also keeping this pawn locked in so that he can't move his rook, and also his bishop isn't going to be able to traditionally come out to this b7 square like it likes to often. So here I just wanted to try to get rid of this pawn because it was weak anyway, and just open up some more lines. So he decided not to take it, and yeah, here I just blundered right into this skewer. I didn't really see what he was doing. So here I think, if I remember at the computer, I looked at this move d6, and I didn't play it. So yeah, and here he can't let this happen with check, I guess. So yeah, where would he want? I'd probably have to go here, I guess. And yeah, this is actually looking great. So that's probably not the best continuation, but well, maybe. Let's see. Can he take this first? He's attacking my queen, but I get this with check. That's the problem. So yeah, that's obviously still not quite working. I mean, in a lot of these variations, I end up with two pieces for the rook, and I know that the computer gives something else because that doesn't really look right. But okay, so he skewered me, and I played the kind of lame move, moving the rook over, which, you know, I should have looked closer at d6 and see if I could have made something like that. So I had plenty of times. This is a 15-10 game, and we hadn't used that much. But okay, obviously he took the exchange here. And yeah, this is actually a mistake by him, because it gives me a tempo to play d6. I think if he had played... I'm not sure what square would be best, maybe d6. But my rook was on that file, so... But it would have given me him a tempo on my bishop too, so that's kind of interesting. And then would have allowed him to take that pawn with his pawn at least. But okay, so here he allowed d6. And here, yeah, this is interesting, because I didn't really think, like, obviously this is where the knight was going to go, and it keeps it on the c5 square, so it's hard for me to just push that pawn forward now. So I moved my rook over trying to do that. The computer gave some, you know, stronger continuation, obviously, but I guess the focus of this video isn't so much on, like, perfect play, because I'm just, like, obviously making a lot of mistakes. But to see these cool mates, so I guess I'll move forward and get to it. So he had an interesting idea there, just trying to keep that weakness as I had it here. And I don't know if this is best, but I like this idea where I could try to get some tempos here now. And again, I'm still looking at this square, so it's a little bit annoying for him to build up pressure on this pawn, so it's going to be a pretty strong pawn, I think. And here I was just hoping to try to get into this f5 square and, you know, be an annoying piece, because it would protect this pawn a little more, and it would be hard for him to really ever boot that knight, because he doesn't have a bishop to do it with, and it would be hard for him to get the knight over here, obviously, because of the pawn. So yeah, here I thought this was, he went for an interesting try here to take the pawn, but it doesn't work out, because I get this nice little continuation here where I get the queen in with a mate threat, so I'm able to move this bishop. I think he probably would have had to, if he had gone here, actually, well, I can still save the bishop. I mean, I can't take the pawn, but I'm not quite sure. I can't go back to this nice square because it's protected by the queen. So yeah, queen f6 probably is the right move there for him. I guess probably I would have to drop it back. I'm not really sure what square is best. Just like at least now it can't be directly attacked by a rook, but it has fewer squares. So I don't know, c3 is also kind of interesting, but yeah, that would have been a lot better, I think, for him than in the game. So in the game he went back here, I think. And now he has a tempo here, but this is, you know, he got worried here. Or maybe he thought he was, like, winning with the two rooks, but usually the two pieces are pretty hard to deal with. So I took this, grabbed the pawn, and yeah, this probably wasn't the best way to play, actually, but it was definitely interesting, and it led to this long sort of struggle where I wasn't really sure if I was doing better or not. I wonder if I even should just cement the knight there, but the knight could have been kicked at any point, so I wanted to play that jack just so that he wasn't coming in on f2 with his two rooks, because then at the very least he's got, you know, draws coming. He played a lot of interesting moves, because by pushing this pawn here, he's locking this pawn backwards, and then after he checks me, I'm going to have to decide if I want to let him get a perpetual by going back and forth or just take that pawn. So that's what happens next. I was trying to set up some pressure here, obviously, on g7, so yeah, here is like, you know, he could have gone back and see, you know, tried to see if I wanted to protect this pawn. But okay, so he protected f7 and kept an eye on the rook. I grabbed this pawn, I'm not sure if that's best, but I wanted to get the king active here, and that ends up being kind of a pretty interesting continuation. So actually this reminds me that I already missed the ideas here with the one mate that I didn't see at all in the game and didn't see here. So I think it was way back, actually. Yeah, here is where I should have thought about, because there is an interesting motif where where I could have tried to push this pawn up, with the idea being that if he takes this here, then I've got this Anastasia's mate. And of course I didn't see that at all, but that would have been really cool. And it shows you how, like, knowing these mating patterns, and, well, actually remembering them is of course important, but knowing these mating patterns, you can get a thread in the game where you don't necessarily get to play the mate, but it gets you a better position, or it gets you out of trouble, or whatever. So here it just would have built some more pressure. So yeah, I could have played that on a couple different moves. Like, even if I didn't play it here and I took this, and what did he do in the game? Yeah, he played this. Okay, so yeah, this is already a problem in terms of trying to get that motif in, because now the f7 square is open for flight for the king. So, I mean, I guess if he went the wrong way, like, I could have, even here probably, I don't know, it's kind of a little tricky, because if I check him, he probably is going to come to f7. So, yeah, I probably missed my chance to try to set up that threat. Okay, this is what we had in the game, so we got this position here, and okay. Here he takes a pawn, and the other pawn, and I was trying to, I mean, here I felt like I had really screwed it up. This probably isn't the best move either. I should have probably gone into a light square. I can't really get up here yet anyway. And if I have my king on e4 and I try to get, like, my knight here, I got to be careful because I can get checked from behind, so it depends on what his other rook is doing. But I did want to try to infiltrate, and my other idea was that if I couldn't get in this towards the king side in some way, I could probably add some more protection to this pawn to stop it from queening. Okay, so my other problem here was that at some point I want to be able to move this knight without having to trade a rook. Or if I had to trade a rook, at least I could do it in some advantageous way. But I didn't want to, like, trade these rooks and then he gets his, you know, his rook behind this a pawn, and it could just potentially cause me a lot of problems. So I was trying to find a way to not do this. So yeah, this is an interesting moment where I felt like that wasn't the best move, but we kind of repeated here, and I gave him a chance to repeat to see what he wanted to do, but then I decided that I should take this opportunity to unpin the rook. So at least try to play. It looks really funny that this knight's on the edge of the board, but my idea here is to try to get some more activity, so I couldn't really do that otherwise. And this move is interesting because it gives me the pawn. I thought that I didn't have the pawn because of this check, but I forgot that I just have this move here, so it's no big deal. Okay, so I didn't play that check in the game, but that actually I could have played on a previous move, so that was kind of a free pawn, if you will. Okay, so yeah, he checked from behind here, no biggie. And again, this was something else where I saw this check, but I had this rook blocking, so. Okay, so now we've got the two pieces versus the rook, and we're kind of simplifying down. So I was trying to figure out how I was going to maneuver. This was kind of a fun little maneuver here, because I got this check in, and then I moved the knight over to e4, and it's protecting this pawn. And he can't really ever do anything about it. I'm going to be able to protect this knight really easily with my king. I also had just a tempo to get my king over here and get active. Alright, so probably made not an accurate move there, but we ended up repeating once. And now I was trying to figure out if I really had a chance to win this. I mean, at some point, like, if the pawns come off the board, then it's going to be really hard, because, you know, he can just trade his rook basically for either one of my pieces, and it's over. So, but I still felt like I had to get rid of this pawn because it was keeping my king out, and I wasn't sure how I was going to make any progress. I felt like I would be able to easily protect this pawn with my pieces, so I felt like this was okay. And now it was kind of interesting because we were getting into a spot where he's already in the correct corner to mate with the bishop and the knight. So I was trying to think about how I could set up this bishop and knight board even with the rook on the board. And as it turns out, I actually was able to kind of do this. I grabbed this pawn first just because I just didn't want him to have any material, and I also wanted to have free movement for all my pieces and my king. So I just came back up, and he doesn't really have a plan. I mean, we have plenty of time on the clock, but he's really not really sure what to do. So probably I could have even advanced a little bit easier. But okay, so I think what he should have probably done is try to get the king out of this side of the board, because he's on the mating side. But the other problem is, by me having taken that pawn and freed up this pawn, he does have to watch out about potentially this pawn moving up and creating more problems. So, and I probably could have already done that earlier. But okay, so Here I was just trying to get my pieces in position to make sure my pawn was protected. And now, as you can see, we have this motif where the knight and the bishop are on the same color. That means that the knight is watching over all the light squares. So, I mean, there's not really anywhere for the king to go. The bishop over here. So all these squares are covered, right? And the king's got these squares. So when you look at it like that, you're like, okay, wow, this king really doesn't have anywhere to go. This looks like an old Nintendo game or something. But okay, so he can move his rook around, though, which I think would have been fine. But here, I don't know. Now the bishop is looking at this escape square. And probably what he could have done was just pressure my pieces. But my next move is going to be knight here. So like if he does something where he attacks the bishop, which maybe is what he did in game, he just moved back. But even if he had attacked the bishop, then I could have moved the knight over to protect. And then I'm actually setting up this mating motif because my king's already on the right square where it's keeping the king out. So I've got my knight over here. And I think he finally saw that he was really in trouble. Because if you look, the king really doesn't have any squares now. So he's really locked into these two. And my next move is just going to set up the forced mating sequence. So I guess maybe he could have played to the h-file so that he could have stopped it that way. But he decided to stop it now and get rid of the pawn at least, which is probably the better of the two options. Okay, so now I've got to actually do the bishop and the knight mate, which is the second cool mate, and it's the first time this has come up for me in like 15,000 games of chess, so I've been waiting for it to happen. The only thing is I'm already kind of in position, so it's not as cool. Like, it would have been cooler if my pieces were like in the middle or scattered or something and I had to do the whole mate. The only other time it's come up for me was that my opponent actually had me in it at one point, but it was a long time ago and my opponent had no clue what he was doing, so I just easily got the draw. But I think he ran out of time or something, if I remember right. But okay, so I mean, I guess I still could have potentially screwed this up. It would be really hard because, like I said, it's really close to done already. And this is like the easier part once you've got the king boxed in. So, okay, the king looks like it's going to be able to get out. He thinks it's going to be able to run. But I put my knight back over and we set up this wall that we saw before. So, oops, get rid of that. So he only has one place to go now, which is back. And again, just cutting off the escape square. So now he's locked into these two squares. Got to go here. And he resigned here, which I think is kind of a punk thing to do. Like, I don't know, it was a nice game, and you see that your opponent has a chance to do this really rare mate. I probably would have let my opponent do it, but there's no rule that says you have to do that. But obviously, he could only go here, and then, well, the fastest way to do it would be to do this check here, only move, check, only move, and then mate is here, and you get this sort of little setup, which is funny. But even, there's really nothing you can do. Like, I mean, you have to be careful not to stalemate him, but even if I made the wrong move here, let's say, like here, he still can only bounce back and forth between these squares, so you're still going to end up just in the same pattern. But yeah, it was pretty fun. So I got potentially an Anastasia's mate that I didn't see at all. And then I got the bishop and knight mate, which I didn't get to finish. So two really crazy mates that actually didn't show up on the board, but this basically was on there. And it was kind of fun to finally come across that, so I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll see you around for the next video.